On to this live stream on February 4th, 2025. Today we're going to be talking about our motion photo challenge. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are tuning in from. Happy to have you here. Have you here live, have you here after the fact. And we are on this week. This is what, like the fourth photo challenge of the year. And we have got some really amazing photos that I'm going to be going through in today's stream. There were a lot of people who commented that it was a little difficult as well. And yes, this one is one of the harder ones, capturing motion, especially if you're trying to capture motion in the way that some of our other photographer friends were, with that sort of long shutter speed where you're capturing either the background in motion or something like that, and then our subject sharp, which is a very difficult thing to do. So if you are watching this live or the replay, what I want you to do is, while I go through some of my favorite photos and give some critiques to said photos and some other photos, make sure that you pop in a comment. Let us know what you think. I want to also say thank you to everyone who continues to participate in these challenges. If you are somehow watching this on the YouTube channel or somewhere else and you want to participate in these challenges, every week on Monday, we post these challenges to our community. You'll probably see us posted on social media as well. And you can post your photo that ideally, you're going out and practicing your photography that week. And you can post that to the community. So welcome, Suzanne live from Germany. Welcome. Thank you for being here today. So today I'm going to get right into it. It's going to be a little bit different than the weeks past. I do want to get through as many photos as possible, but I don't have as much time today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually highlight some of my favorite photos that were shared this week. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go through as many possible in about 30 to 45 minutes. If you are here live and you posted a photo, let me know in the chat so I can get to your photo. I want to make sure I prioritize the members that are here live with us today. If you are watching live, let me know one fun thing that you did in the past week. And I'll just go ahead and share myself. I actually met up with Will this past weekend and we took some photos. It was fun. It was amazing. We actually went and recorded the first episode of the upcoming Photo Dash series that I've been talking about the past few weeks. And we had a blast. We are so excited about it. It was this concept that we kind of like didn't know if it was going to work. But as I mentioned in previous live sessions, I went out and filmed a couple myself. And then Will and I got together and we were running around downtown LA at 7 a.m. on Saturday morning. And it was very, very fun. And we are excited. I'm in the middle of editing that together. And the plan is to release the first season of Photo Dash, which will be my 3 episodes of me doing it myself in the next few weeks, ideally. And then while those are being released once a week, we will be editing a series, the first season with Will and I. And the best part about it is that we're trying to get it to have some participation. So it's actually going to be a competition between Will and I, a fun little competition for bragging rights to who's the best photographer at Photo Dash. And so each week, once we post those videos, we're actually going to post the photos from them, and then you are going to get to vote on your favorite photos. And at the end of the season, we will crown the champion. So everything that we're doing is kind of like a pilot series season. And if there's anything you have for feedback for us, please let us know. Cesario, welcome. You had some fun shooting some black and white long exposure. That's neat. I'll have to check out in the Plus community if you have posted your photos. I would love to see some of them. All right. I'm going to take a swig of this coffee with my wife's chicken mug right here. Brian shot 100 different birds. Hopefully you meant photographing them. Hawks and woodpeckers, I'm sure. Suzanne says there was a crazy one-eyed cat down. That sounds like a story. All right, so as I mentioned, let me just go through, let me get my screen up. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to share a handful, about 8 or 9 of my favorite photos that I saw posted to this week's challenge. And then we'll go through and give some more critiques to all of them. So the first one in the order, and I'm going to talk about why I liked these photos for very different reasons, is the one posted by Kristen Knopfsinger. The moment is the reason why this is such a great photo. I think technically there's a little bit of some noise and grain, maybe a high ISO, or maybe you cropped in a little bit much. The shutter speed is just slightly slow. I don't mind the birds being blurred out, but the horse, it has a little bit of blur. I wish it was a little sharper. But just like this motion, this moment of this horse running through this field and these birds kind of, I don't know, flying in front of it, flying away. Maybe, you know, it reminds me of, like, you know, the kids when they run at the pigeons and they all fly away. But this beautiful shot, and looks like at golden hour, really, really nice photo. The background trees are nice. The sky and the wires I'm not a huge fan of, and it looks like you might have a little bit of dust on your lens or your sensor, giving these little orb things that you're seeing there. But just a really great moment, and it nails the topic of this week's challenge, which was motion. The next one that I wanted to highlight was, all these are great photos, and I'm going to try to get to all of these. Marcel Paul. So I want to bring up, I'm going to bring up Brian's, actually, since Brian is here. And this is a great example of, like, capturing this motion with the panning motion shot. Perfect example of the panning motion shot. And Brian, I think you mentioned that you did 8 or 9 big circles, and you were able to practice your panning motion shots. And this is a great example of that. And for those of you that are new here or new photographers, and you're wondering, how in the world do I get a shot like this? Basically, what is happening is you're slowing your shutter speed down slightly. And you're actually moving your camera, and you're trying to match the speed of whatever the subject is, so that as you move your camera, your subject stays in the same part of your frame, sharp, but then the motion of your camera and that longer exposure blurs that background. So this is a great example of that style of capturing motion versus something like this, Marcel Paul, who used a super high shutter speed. I'm not sure what, he didn't mention what the shutter speed was, but to capture these motorcyclists who are going super fast around the corners, had to be super, super high, had to have a lot of light, sunlight during the day to get this. And you're still capturing motion, though. And that's what I love about this photo, is, like, you can see that this person is riding super fast, but that sharp, fast shutter speed captured that motion very still. And both are great ways to capture motion. The next photo I wanted to highlight was, let's get down to it. Also, something for just, it's not a big deal, but something that I noticed is just the way that the platform works is, when you put the photo down at the bottom of your post, sometimes it's hidden and you have to click that see more to see the actual photo. I would suggest just posting your photo at the very top of your submission, so that it just pops up automatically, and so people see it. The platform, I don't have complete control over all the things, but just that's something I noticed. All right, this is one, Aninos. This is one that is very different than a lot of the other photos that were submitted. A lot of them were like these fast moving objects that you were trying to capture. But here we have this cat clearly in motion, though. Usually you see a lot of photos of cats sitting there, lying there, sleeping there. But as anyone who has sat there and watched a cat before, you know that this cat was probably licking that paw in motion, and just the perfect moment. You see the tongue outstretched and the paw right there cleaning itself off. So just another sort of great storytelling moment of motion. And I like the lighting, nice sunlight coming in, highlighting the fur, and great details. I'm not sure if you edited this and brought up that or sharpened it a bit more or added some texture, but really, really nice shot. All right, let's see. See a couple of these I didn't even see before, like Todd's right here. I didn't see, but a great example of the motion of this chainsaw, and then all that wood, the wood chips flying over there. It's a cool photo. I feel like obviously it's like an event where they're having some probably competition. In terms of like artistry, it would be cool. I don't know. It's cool seeing both of them because it's obviously the story of this moment, but like just a single shot of this person with the blade with like a different background would be more artistic. Obviously, that's not what this setting was, but maybe even just rotate just a little bit to see both subjects so that they're not standing in front of each other, but still really great motion capture. All right, the next one I wanted to highlight though was Umeesh. Let's get down to Umeesh. Here's another example, Aaron. Great capture of the race car going around, and that's a great place to practice this style of photography. All right, this one. Wow, did you see this photo? This is just incredible. And as Brian, I'm going to quote Brian on this one, amaze balls. This photo, it's incredible. Like, I don't know. I'm almost speechless at this photo. Like, it's a perfect capture. And you must have been in another vehicle going at the same speed to be moving along with this, I don't know, what is this, a rickshaw cyclist driver who was biking, and just the lighting, the editing to have the lighting look great on the cyclist is perfect. I like that everything else is blurred, out of focus. Even the subject here, the passenger of this little rickshaw, and just what a great photo. Amazing photo. I have no critiques. I like the composition, very well balanced, but a very difficult photo to capture. I don't know if you put the settings in here. I don't think so. But as it got 17 likes from our photography members, it seems like a lot of people like this. Hello, Marcel. Welcome here today. I mentioned at the very beginning, and just shout out to everyone here live: Kristen, Paul, Mercedes, Cesario, Aaron, Ian, Marcel, Aaron, Brian, and Suzanne. Again, welcome live. I hope you're having a great week. Something I asked everyone at the beginning was to share something fun that they've done in the past week, whether it's photography related or not. I mentioned that I don't have as much time today. So what I'm doing is I'm just going over some of my favorite photos that stood out to me for this challenge. And then I will go over as many as possible afterwards. And I'll try to prioritize anyone here that's live. So if you are here and want me to look at your photo, critique your photo, let me know in the comments so I make sure I get to that. All right, the next photo I wanted to highlight, all of these are such great photos, was Michael. Let's see, Michael Graham. Just a great example of capturing the motion of water. And this one is a little bit easier to capture than some of those moving subject ones. So I don't want to downplay this photo because it's really great. I love the composition. I like, the framing of the forest, the forest framing this waterfall and the water below. So I don't want to downplay how difficult this photo is. I like the clarity you added, the saturation and the colors is great. But if you're a beginner and you want to take a really, really cool photo, this is the type of photo that you can get without a ton of practice or equipment. What you might need is a set of ND filters. Those are filters that basically darken the light and block light from entering your lens. There's different types, some that just screw onto the end of your lens and you'll have to get the specific size that matches the lens you're using. Or there are different sets that basically attach to the front of your lens and can fit on a variety of lens sizes. And they come in different darknesses. Some are variable, where you can actually just have one ND filter on and it goes darker or brighter. But basically that allows you to take these long exposure photos during the day, because if not, and you're trying to slow down your shutter speed to 1/2 of a second or 2 seconds or longer, which might be necessary to capture this kind of photo, too much light's going to come in and you can't use your other settings like ISO or aperture to compensate and get a well-exposed image. So typically what you're doing is you're putting your ISO as low as possible so that your image is darker, your sensor's not trying to brighten your image. And then you close down your aperture to a decent amount. Sometimes the smallest it goes, the largest f-stop, like an f/16 or something like that. And then you just play around with your shutter and you lock those other settings. Then you play around with your shutter to see what it does. You need a tripod or something to keep it very still to capture a photo like this. We've got a section on this in the masterclass. I put out a little tiny, really old long exposure mini course a long time ago. But yeah, that just a great example of water in motion. And I was expecting and hoping to see photos like this. Welcome, Bob, to the live stream. Aaron, you went on a nice hike. That's great. And did some astrophotography. Cool. All right. The next photo I'm going to highlight is Tolly. Mildred, your photo didn't appear. So make sure that you check your photos to make your post to make sure that they actually post. See what I'm saying? These ones that when you post the photos down at the bottom of your post, which is totally understandable, you don't see them. So I'll try to remind people to post it at the very beginning. So just to kind of compare that last photo to this one right here, still a great capture of motion, but that water is basically still. It's got a little bit of motion in there, but a much faster shutter speed. So you're not getting that stream of water, but still a great photo. Tolly. Oh yeah, this is the photo I wanted to take. And I'm glad that you are all enjoying these challenges, learning from them. Yeah, let me talk about this photo and then I have another comment about that. Now looking at this, I thought this person was running, but it looks like they're on a skateboard, but still a great capture from, it looks like quite a distance. I'm not sure what camera you use, 55 to 250. Yeah, so you were pretty far from the subject. You can just, at 220 millimeters, you can just tell from the compression of the background and the foreground elements. You're not like standing right there with a wide angle lens. but a perfect focus on this skater. And sometimes, and typically, I want and say, it's typical for photographers to leave more space in front of the photographer or in front of the subject if they're moving in a specific direction. So here you would say like, okay, I want to leave more space in front. So maybe I would crop this so that the skater is on the right side of the frame. But I actually kind of like just like the centered look of this photo. Not perfect, actually almost perfectly centered, his body. But great capture of motion and just a great composition otherwise too. In our challenge or in our photo dash video that Will and I were shooting this weekend on Saturday, something that he said, I'm editing his video, and something he was mentioning is that with a good composition, you can get away with a lot of stuff like bad lighting, even the subject not being as interesting. But compositionally, this is just such a nice photo, and the focus, perfect focus, great job, and just an alternate version of motion being captured. All right, so that was one of my favorites, and then I got 3 more. Let's get to the next one. Was John's. That was the next John on the list. My kids have these little spinny things. Those are cool. Oh, John here. Yeah, so this is a great example of finding the right subject to emote motion. And you can tell these guys are in motion, paddling as hard as possible. And here is one where the lighting, along with the composition, does a lot for this photo. You got this golden light backlight on them so that even though they're a little bit in the shadows, that's okay. You still see the details on their face, which is important, or which is nice. It's not necessary. You could have taken this photo from a different angle and maybe even silhouetted them completely, but I like being able to see them, and then just the spray of water with all that light shining through is just great. And just the 4 of them in that pattern, and they're synchronized, they're working together. Just a really nice photo. And you really feel that water. I mean, I can almost feel that water spraying on my face from this photo. Nice photo. Sharp, right? Sharp photo capturing motion, though. You don't have to have that long exposure style. And then 2 more. Marcel, this is one, and you're here. This is a photo that kind of like an iconic photo that I think most photographers see in their mind if they're ever at like a train station and there's someone waiting there. But I think here what made this photo so special to me is the composition and the colors. You get this great warm and cool contrast between the warmth right here around your subject, which I don't know if you edited it that way or if it was just from the photo. If you edited it that way, you did a really good job not overdoing it and making it look fake, because I could see how someone would just like throw a radial gradient on a photo, warm it up, and it not looking that good. But I think this one looks really natural. And then you have like the vignette of the coolness, a little bit of a darker vignette with like the lower exposures around the subject. But just a really cool photo. And compared to like the other photos we've seen, something else I like and wanted to point out was just that the subject here, which I think most people would say the subject is this person, is the one that's not moving. But because there's motion behind it of this train, metro line passing by, it's definitely a photo of motion. And this one also is probably one that, not to downplay it at all, but probably a photo that's a little bit simpler to capture than one of those ones like Umish's or the one where you're doing the panning motion. So if you're a beginner and you want to go out, just go out in the evening when you can slow down your shutter speed like this and capture that train going by. And I know this because I was trying to do a very similar shot when I was in Japan. I didn't have a lot of time, but I was at the station. We were waiting for the Shinkansen high-speed rail, and every time one would come into the station and then leave, by the time it was leaving the station, it was going fast. And there were people standing there, but I was handheld, which was a problem. And then also, it was just so bright that I couldn't slow my shutters down enough to get that true motion that you got here. And also, I think with the lights on, it helps a lot at night. If there weren't the lights of the train on, then it would be a little bit not as epic, I would say. So very, very cool photo, Marcel. Really good job. And then the last one I want to highlight, and then, man, this stuff, I just love talking about your photos so much. It just takes time, though. I'll have about 10, 15 minutes to do a little bit more. The last one was this one here, Deepak Patel. Just a really great capture of the bee and framed very well. And I like, those wings are going so fast that those are blurred, but then the shutter captured the bee itself sharp. And I think that is difficult to do. It's difficult to do here in this kind of setup too, where the flower is in focus, but the background and these foreground leaves are out of focus. I know because I've tried to photograph bees like this a lot myself, and getting that perfect composition where the leaves in the background and foreground aren't there. There's enough space between your subject and those leaves to create this sort of blurry background is great because it helps the bee stand out, or your subject, the bee and the flower. So it's a little greenish. I might warm it up a little bit. That might, bring up the saturation of the bee's yellows. I think would look pretty natural. So I think that white balance might be a tiny, tiny bit off, but otherwise really great photo. All right, so 10 minutes left. If you are here live and I did not talk about your photo, leave me a chat and I will try to find your photo. Otherwise, I'm just going to go through some of these photos. But just the comment that I wanted to make was that I'm glad people are enjoying these challenges. And it just reminds me of, going out and doing the Photo Dash challenge with Will, where we were in downtown LA, and it's the same thing. We have these challenges that give us a specific prompt, subject, and style to photograph, and then we have 30 minutes to capture that, and it forces us to look at a place that we've gone time and time again, but in a new way. And it's just been really fun to see your photos that you posted. So, all right, so let's see. I'm going to look at Aaron mentioned having a photo. Let's see which one. Aaron Stevens. Oh, yes, I saw this one. This was a cool photo. This is like a crane, herring. What type of bird is this? Great egret. Canon 250D, Sigma 150-600. Nice. That's a nice lens. And great sharp shutter to capture this motion. Yeah, great example of capturing the motion of this bird. I like the negative space. I like how the egret is down in the bottom corner, and there's so much great little just negative space to focus on our bird. I feel like if I were to edit this photo myself, I might crop in a little bit, or maybe brighten up this kind of shadow here. I feel like it almost looks like I don't know, fake or something where like the right side of the frame is a little bit brighter than the left side. But yeah, that's a minor thing. Maybe what you could have done if you had the info and the raw is brought down the whites or the highlights of the bird, and so you can see like that, the feathers and the more detail in the feathers. But I mean, this moment is so great. I kind of want to be able to focus more on the bird and this fish in its mouth or in its beak. And so it's a cool artistic photo. I think Will and would really like to see this in black and white. It's kind of a cool photo that might be good in black and white. But yeah, so great photo, and hopefully my humble critiques help. All right, next we got Cesario. Did I see your photo? I'm searching for your name and I'm not seeing it pop up. Why is that not the case? And then also Mercedes. I'll look for your guys's. Mercedes. I see your comments popping. Oh, here we go. Oh, cool. It's a silver bullet. Okay. So you had this idea for the challenge, blah, 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 blah. So, oh, you had an idea, but then you did this as a backup. And so this is your panning photography, getting moving cars. Yeah, so this is great practice for this challenge. This is, oh, Cesario. Yes, you said you didn't post yours, Cesario. So Mercedes, this is great practice of this style of photography, and I think you did a pretty good job capturing a car mostly sharp. It's just a little bit dark. I kind of wish that you were maybe a little tighter in on this car, and so it's like the sole subject. Maybe crop out this light. I kind of wish it was a little bit brighter, so maybe being in a different location would have been cool. But in terms of that technique of panning, I think you did a really good job practicing that. I think it just is. Let me try to see. Like, I love this challenge because we can kind of compare it to some of these other photos that did a similar thing, and I'll kind of talk about what they did differently. Let's see. Let's find one. I know there were some up here. Okay, this is another one. Similarly, I think Derek, it was a little bit too much camera movement to get that perfectly sharp. This is hard, guys. This is not easy. And it's something that maybe even putting your camera on a tripod, if you have a smooth tripod head, a fluid head tripod, like for video, it will keep your camera steady or level so that you don't get that up and down motion that you got here where the wheels and the lights, you can tell, is blurry. Now it gives you kind of an artistic effect, but if you're trying to get something perfectly sharp, this one's a little bit different because it's the subject and you as the photographer must have been moving with it. But it's a good example of like how the subject really stands out. The lighting on the subject really makes it stand out from that background, and the composition is just a little bit more balanced. This is a cool photo. I'm still on thinking, Mercedes, about your photo, but this is a really cool photo of motion, seeing the light. This is like not panning. This is just a still long exposure shot. You get to see all the lightning that is probably going throughout the long exposure, and then also a car going down, which is kind of cool. You don't see the car, but you just see the lights because of that long exposure. This is one that's a little bit better, I would say, in terms of like the panning. motion, sharp car, but this is one where I kind of want to see more space in front of the car. Notice how it just feels like a little off balance. I don't know, maybe not to you, but to me, I feel like it's a little bit off balance. And so having the car, if you had captured it a split second earlier, where it was on the right side of the frame, I think that would be a little bit more balanced. Or cropping it so it's just perfectly centered, even more of like a portrait photo. But the background's cool. It's great seeing that background. Now this is easier here because there's lights that are lighting up this racetrack. There's lots of lights in the background as well. Thomas, this is an interesting take on motion, or the lack thereof motion, but then you have all these things going on. You got the train coming, cars going. That's a very cool kind of take. Suzanne, I won't forget about you. Brian was the example where for Mercedes photo, I feel like Brian's is a great one to maybe strive to be a little bit more like in terms of a better, brighter image. Still, the subject is a little bit smaller in the frame, but I don't mind it because it's kind of a nice balance. And then the whole background, but it's just shot at a different time. It's a different subject. It's on the water, so it is just a little bit different. But Mercedes, I would love to see you practice that a little bit more, and with some different subjects, different time of the day, and see what you get. And I want to see that original one that you were talking about too. All right, so let's see, Suzanne. All right, so Suzanne, you mentioned this was a tough challenge for you. You live in Dresden, and okay, so let's open up this photo. Ooh, cool. Ooh, I actually like this photo. I like it's a subtle photo that I think the way it appeared, it was so small, it doesn't like strike your eyes as like a very interesting, but opening it up large, I really like it. It's all a little bit dark, but I think oh man, there's like a lot of potential in this type of composition, where I love that it's not just a photo of the subway or the metro line, the train going, but it's in this nice setting with this cool building, the moon above it. You used like a little bit of a longer shutter. It's interesting that like the right side of the train is not as blurred out as the left side. Maybe that's just because it slows down around that curve or something. Man, I kind of want to see this, but play with the composition a little bit. It's a little dark overall. I think you could probably bring up the highlights a little bit just to add some more contrast and make, have some more brighter parts of the image somehow. Now I know if you're editing this and you're doing it, which you have the actual file for, it might be hard to do that. You might start to see a lot of digital noise and grain and stuff like that. So when I say these things, as always, take it with a grain of salt. It might not be possible, but yeah, I love the idea of this. I think I want to see like more of the building in the background. I don't even know if that's possible, but like the whole building and then like a little bit wider out almost. Like if this was like a landscape photo, that might be kind of cool, but I don't know what's to the right and left of this framing. But yeah, I think for this specific photo, for me, I would just like maybe boost the highlights just a little bit. And I could lose a little bit of the foreground ground right here. So whether that's just creating a crop, a custom crop where you just bring up the bottom a little bit so that all of this is not so much in the center of it, but it's a little bit more balanced, like the bottom third, middle third, top third, where the train's on the bottom third, the building's in the middle third, the moon's in the top third. It kind of would create a nice little balance, maybe. Cesario says shooting the same shot in Blue Hour. Yeah, like going there super late after sunset or super early or something like that where you get a little bit more light. I think that's a great idea. All right, friends. Annette, cool. Great capture of laundry. A lot of these are cool captures of motion, and then just to take it to the next level is like figuring out not just how can I do a long exposure of some cool lights, but really coming up with a composition that is better and just more interesting, and then also like capturing some subjects. Like this one I like better because it's more a story of this town, and then there's some cars driving by rather than just the lights. Although there's ways to get just lights. I thought I saw one where just the lights were very cool, like in a very cool shape. Bill, this is a cool photo. A little bit of a slower shutter speed. Let me refresh because Cesar, you have you said you posted, so I gotta reload. But we got a lot of photos this time. I think more than last week. And this week we've got a great challenge, landscape, which I'm sure a lot of people are going to enjoy. So I can't wait to see your photos for this week. Let's scroll down. I wish there was like an infinite scroll option for this rather than having me having to click. Okay, here we go. Long exposure in black and white, but this one in color, 15th of a second. So I see. So so this is a cool example of you capturing the motion of the ocean, with a longer shutter, which is, I think, very cool thing to do. And I like those photos. And the composition is great. The colors are nice. I like the sharp textures you get on the hill. A little bit of the blur here. I mean, the only thing that I would say that could make this is, if the sky was a little bit more colorful that day, or you could do it in post where you just maybe add a little bit of warmth in this top corner, and then also in the sand in the bottom corner. This is more of a creative take on it, not necessarily what it exactly was, but just having a photo where there is that warmth and the coolness balancing or kind of contrasting each other is kind of cool. So I could imagine this photo with like a warmer sky, warmer sand, but then this blue ocean, the blue cliffs. But I also like this kind of like cool colors vibe that's going on too. So that's just a take. I think I don't know if you did a sky edit over here or if it's just like the light from the sky, but I do see a little bit of it looks like you had a mask and you see a little bit of the edge like effect over the hills. Very, very subtle, but something like that. If that is what's happening with this hill in the background, like you could probably blend that in just a little bit by brushing out the masked area of the sky. So what you do is create a sky mask. If you're doing this in Lightroom, then you just kind of brush this out just subtly so it kind of blends in. Very cool though. I like that photo. Great composition. I don't know why you didn't post it. It's lovely. Cool. All right, friends, I am sorry that I'm not going to get to go over everyone's photos today. I just don't have enough time. Got some other things to do. But I appreciate everyone being here live with us. I appreciate seeing everyone's photos. As I mentioned, this week's challenge is landscape photography. So that's a fun one. So go out and take some great landscape photos, post them. And I challenge you to leave at least one comment to another photographer's photos in the weekly challenge for this week. And then also check out the other spaces on the platform. Help the other photographers who may be newer than you, who may have questions in the gear talk or the business stuff section or the editing room. And as always, if you have any feedback for the platform, if there's spaces that you want that aren't there, if there's ones that you don't really think we need, let us know. Something I am doing is, so I appreciate all of the supporter, everyone being here, because you're here, you're in our classes. That's amazing. Something we're trying to do is to make becoming a supporter of us more enticing, because for the platform, the cost of the platform and the time, it would just be great to have some supporters and to be able to, I'm hiring people to do some cool motion graphics for the Photo Dash series and things like that. So really trying to up the production value of that. So all of the supporters who are supporters now are great, and we appreciate that. Something we are doing, which I don't think you see, is that we're adding some of our courses here onto the platform. And as a supporter, you're going to get access to those classes. We have a little bit of an issue with not having enough spaces to have all of our classes separated. So we're kind of bundling all of our photography course content into one masterclass. But soon, all supporters will get access to that. Also, for those of you who are interested in Photo Dash, what we're going to do is have the behind the scenes editing of our photos for supporters as well. So that's going to be exclusive content. So we have these great episodes come out. And then if you want to see Will and I editing our photos, that will be for supporters. So if you're a supporter, thank you so much. Really appreciate you. But regardless, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate seeing your photography, and just enjoy helping you, inspire you in a little way to improve your photography. All right. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful week. Go take those landscape photos, and I will see you next week. Bye.